I'd like to welcome you again to the Healthcare Leadership Excellence Podcast. We are always delighted to have you with us. We know you could be spending your time in many other places and are happy you're with us today. And you will be happy you're with us today because you'll walk away today much better educated on something that has most of us a little terrified because we don't know a lot about artificial intelligence and how it applies to healthcare. We hear all sorts of rumors. We hear about ChatGPT having errors. We wonder about how accurate that's going to be when we're doing a diagnosis. We wonder about how it's going to affect electronic medical records, if it can replace it, but how it's going to happen. Well, we have a person today that is going to answer a lot of those questions. He is CEO of Technology River, founder and CEO. It is one of the premier East Coast houses for development of software and use and integration of AI into that. And I would like to welcome Mansoor Ghassenfer with us today. Mansoor, thank you for taking time to educate us today.
No problem. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me.
So just give us a little background on yourself, uh, on Technology River, and just get us started here.
Okay, so my name is Ghazenfer Mansoor. I'm the CEO of Technology River. We're a healthcare software development company. We started as a regular software development company, but our second customer was a health tech. And then we started building different applications, and gradually we started building a lot of HIPAA-compliant applications. So we work a lot with health tech companies, helping them in creating HIPAA-compliant innovative software products, as well as helping AI, as well as helping healthcare services businesses improve their operations through AI and technology. So AI is a big part of what we do. HIPAA compliance is a big part of what we do. And we are
So
based in Virginia.
excellent. And what background brought you to being a CEO of a development company on a very cutting edge subject?
So I have a computer science background. I've done a master's in computer science, done development for various different types of companies. I worked with two startups as an early engineer. So um, the tech background is the one. And many times as a tech people, we think that, oh, if you're a tech person, we could do the company. But that turned out to be not true. There was a lot of learning that went along the way. I created a recruitment SaaS startup. So there was a lot of learning along the way. But then 2015, I started this business. So it came along the way as part of like gradual natural process of helping businesses. So as I was moving up in my career, I was helping companies in the product development. So along the way, realize, okay, now we can set up our own thing. We're not really just helping one or two companies on these products. So that's when I decided to start this.
So I know a lot of people, they hear an expert and they think, yeah, that's fine, but they don't understand healthcare. So just share, you've done dozens of healthcare platforms and applications. I think you mentioned like 45.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You're right on that. 45.
So as you're listening to Mansoor today, please realize that he has been waist deep, neck deep in a lot of the questions that you have today, and we're going to answer some of those questions. So when you're I don't think anyone can take a breath in healthcare without wondering if they're stepping on something with HIPAA, if they're going to get sued on something in HIPAA. So when you're talking about HIPAA compliant software, walk us through what that actually means. You talked about how AI can help that. You also talked about device recording for the SOAP notes, which is familiar to most healthcare people. Walk us through some of that thinking.
Okay, so When it comes to HIPAA, a lot of time people think about a checklist of things you have to do to comply. Yes, there's a checklist, that's a compliance part, but I think the bigger part of that is a trust part. So as we are working on these products, uh, the users, whether they're patients or providers, any of those, they need to have that confidence that this application is HIPAA compliant because there's a very sensitive information. So the trust is a bigger part. And how do you do that? That's also part of the process that you have to bring in. So as we're working on many of these applications, and we have, I mean, as you mentioned, like 45 of those healthcare applications out of those 24 are HIPAA compliant. So we have seen many of these. In many cases, we have uh, started working on a project that was previously done by somebody. Sometimes we're assessing an existing software for a compliance. And a bigger misconception many times comes in is that, oh, if you just encrypt, it's HIPAA compliant. That's just a one small piece of the HIPAA compliance. Um, so think of this way, let's say in a traditional way, when at the doctor's office you go, you see those big filing cabinets, those are locked. So the doctor have access to it, the nurses have it, then your front end person may only have a limited access, but the only way traditionally was to put those locks. It's hard to know when somebody opened the file who actually looked at that file. Was it a receptionist? Are those things being recorded? Those are the administrative processes. But you may or may not have. When it came to web, obviously now that data is available in many different places. Now you have to make sure that if you have a computer screen open and you leave for bathroom or anything, it doesn't get leaked. The next part came. You have a mobile apps. So now your app is HIPAA compliant, but so you are going somewhere, you lost your phone, you dropped somewhere, anything. So if somebody got access to that, are you able to make sure that the data is not leaked? Right. So, and then the next step is AI. So everything is becoming another layer on top because all these are bringing many different complications. So when it comes to web, when it comes to mobile, you can achieve a lot of those things that you were not in a traditional way. Yes, you can. Now we can look at the data. For example, if as a provider I'm looking at it, we can track exactly how long somebody looked at certain page, what permission they had, who was the person, was it nurse, was it staff, was it a billing person, because they all need data for different purposes. And are they only looking at a specific, like, does this X person need to see a specific prescription? Then you can restrict that kind of access. If you is it like when you're on a list, you're seeing multiple patients with maybe just a name and address, but if you go into detail, you may see a lot more, let's say prescription notes and all of those. So these are a little bit more refined control that you can do. So through the access control, to the audit logging, you can do a lot of that stuff in the web application as well as on the mobile part, right? On a mobile, you can also do, even now on a web, you can do a bit more. Like you can use your fingerprints, you can use your face IDs. So that connects you with your user so that you can handle the authorization much more easier. In the past, you had to remember all of those passwords and then where those passwords are. Yes, you need to log in. So it making it more easier as well. Now the bigger part comes in now, AI. So as soon as AI came, now you have all of that data, and if you start using AI to start getting the answers of all of that data that has PHI, now there's a big risk that now your data is being used to train. So when it comes to compliance, we have to make sure that we are anonymizing any of the data or removing any of the PHI specific data before sharing. You do need that data in order to create prediction. Let's say, or whatever, let's say this 80-year-old patient has XYZ. So if you're seeing a lot of patterns, you can create a lot of those predictions, but you don't need to provide any specific data to make it. So these are the things that you have to be aware of it when it comes to AI.
And for example, just walk me through what is probably the nightmare for any clinician. I'll just give you a quick story. I was talking with a cardiologist years back, probably it was right before the pandemic, and he was, working with a pretty tough workload. And he said, "Carl, I go from 9 to 6 every day with my clinic." And I thought, okay, but that doesn't sound too bad. And I think he caught my, well, what's the problem? He said, "Carl, but what you don't realize, that's probably 30 to 35 patients a day." Okay. Said, "Carl, for each one of those, I have to spend a minimum of 10 minutes per note." And suddenly the math hit me that this guy was 350 minutes. That's nearly 5 hours a night. So, of just getting Epic or Cerner, it was Epic in his case. So, put on your crystal ball hat here for me, Mansoor. How do you see either the work you do with Technology River or AI in general? How can HI help that poor cardiologist reduce his clinical load of EMR work? Any thoughts on that and how that can take the weight off? Because it is the number one reason for physician burnout and leaving the profession right now is the medical electronic medical record. Thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's very normal. I've seen like when I go to doctor, so right after the meeting, many time I do see as I'm checking out, oh, they're like he's recording. Oh, I talked to this patient, he has this, I issued this prescription. That voice note gets sent over to another company for prescription, and then somebody would take log the notes, and then it comes ready, comes next day. So that's perfect. But now you can do a lot of those things through AI right away. So as you talked about that Soap Notes app, so one of the apps we created where you can have an app right in front of you. You can put the phone, record that conversation with the patient, and it would generate the soap notes. It's whatever the stuff that was happening traditionally by the outside company, where somebody had to listen and transcribe. Now AI is doing it. So now not only the actual transcription, but it also would generate the notes in a format that is required by the EMR. Not only that, it will make sure it includes all the dates, all the references of the medicines that's happening, all of that. And not only that, you can also push that to EMRs with the specific codes as well. So yes, you have to still communicate some of that stuff, but now you don't need to spend those hours or lots of minutes just to push that. Now, how do you handle in general in AI, just whether it's this one or so now using AI, you can create AI agents for any of this. So automation is a big thing in all that. So we look at those workflows, the bottlenecks, where the doctors, where the businesses are spending time. Can we automate some of that? Like so this is one example. There could be many other, like whether it's a remote patient monitoring, whether it's so any of those the codes that are generated pushing into EMRs or getting the data out of the EMRs, you can do a lot more.
Are So walk me through here a question. Are there individual things that a clinician or an office manager can do to start implementing AI, or are they pretty well tied to an overall platform and special software? Um, and if so, what do they have to do to get that into their clinic, as it were?
So one of the bigger challenges right now is um, a, availability of so many different software. The bigger confusion people have, oh, what do I use? Yes, for normal, obviously, content, you have ChatGPT, but there are 10 other tools that do that, like Gemini do that, Copilot does it, or Claude do it. So many other. So this is just for this. But if you look for any other thing, whether it's creating a presentation, any other document, or any type of work, you will see a lot of those. So that's a bigger confusion for most of the users, like, hey, which one do I use? Do I use Perplexity for this specific thing? And some tools are good in one thing, some are good in other. So there's no right or wrong. You just have to pick. And that's where some expert would come in. They'll look at what are the specific things you are doing and which tools are best for those, and how do you integrate those? Because if you have 5 different tools that are doing 5 different things, you may need to integrate those as well and pushing the data into your EMR, or maybe pulling from EMR and getting more answers out of that. Whether it's improving your scheduling part, whether it's sending notifications, or any of those. So one of the advice that I would give to anybody who's starting out: don't start big, don't start it as a big project. Start with just one basic thing. Start with simple administrative stuff. Because once you start feeling comfortable, then you start to get the feeler of, oh, what it can do, and then what solutions are available for that. So simple example is, let's say you have some internal documents that you may load into the ChatGPT or any other tool, and just do, for example, the internal searches that stays local to your organization. There are ways to do it. So it's by default, a lot of the data is loaded, is become part of the AI training. So, but you can, in a different version, you can turn that off and make sure that that data is not used for public training. So you can, so depending on the specific data, but you can start connecting and integrating with those tools and get some kind of a training. Once you have that, then you can start to get more comfortable and start producing more and more stuff.
So let's go into a bit of business talk here. Not only is AI and software and HIPAA compliance daunting for many people, there are a lot of people out there that are saying they can help that have that maybe aren't as helpful as they need to be. So let's just say I'm the clinic manager. I've got, well, I'll just refer to one clinic I'm working with. They have over 100 providers, 300 total employees, large orthopedic practice. And let's say they're looking for a really good platform that can do their software that's also on the cutting edge of AI. Mansoor, can you walk me through that as that clinic manager, as it were? What should I be looking for? What questions should I be asking as I look into this for my clinic so that I don't get drained a lot of money down the tubes for something I don't need? As a CEO of Technology River, teach us what questions need to be asked to vet out what a good vendor would be for my clinic.
So I think we need another podcast for this. Oh, I mean, obviously, there's a whole lot that we could talk about that. So, and it's not an easy thing because a lot of those would be very specific. But I would start with a very simple, like, rather than like, and this is even applied even on the non-AI software tools valuation that we look at it. We don't go with what the marketing says. Oh, we do the XYZ, because then if you start comparing on things that they are telling, you have to look at what your specific use cases are. You have to list down your use cases. See, remember, AI is like a mirror. It can automate what you have. If you don't have the right data, if you don't have the right processes, you cannot automate it. So let's say, even for normal, let's say if you have a CRM, right? If you don't put the right data, that's not going to help you. Your EMRs is not going to help you if you're not putting everything into the EMR. So it's same true for any AI medical software that you get. You have to have the right data. So a bigger part is you have to define your data. You have to clean up your data. You have to do the mapping. But more importantly, the use cases. Once you define the use cases, okay, in my case, my need is that every time I see a patient, I want to do XYZ. Or whenever we submit, we need to be notified by, for example, um, by the billing by X date, or if there is no. So whatever the rules that you have, so you want to list those and then compare the software against those rules. Secondly, the bigger part is the HIPAA part. How do you make sure this one, the software that they are talking, um, is HIPAA compliant? So you want to look at their processes, because how they are weighing that. Because so for example, in our business, we have a big checklist that we have that makes sure that all the software that our team builds complies based on HIPAA regulation, right? So we share with our customers as well. So now on the other side, if you're buying, you want to make sure you check in. Like, what does that HIPAA compliance mean? We talked earlier about, like, is it just the encryption? Oh, how is the audit log? So I gave some example earlier in my talk about how different record that you are creating is tracked. Can you show me the example how I would visualize it, right? What is the I mean, the bigger part, another one is authentication and authorization. Who is the person and what permission they have? Do they have access to everything? So think that. So I think as you start using, you would start to realize, oh, these are the right things. So you want to make sure that you understand how their process, how are they vetting, how are they verifying all of that. That'll give you some confidence. And as I was talking earlier, HIPAA is not about the checklist. It's the confidence, it's the trust that you're building by creating the HIPAA applications. So, and this, I think I may have missed a point, like, but the similar true for any of the AI. There's not a whole lot of changes when it comes to your buying an AI application. I think the additional pieces comes in is how is that data trained? What happened? Like, what tool you are using on a backend, and is our data being used to train the bigger LLM, or if our like how is the data, is it being anonymized, or is it my responsibility to load anonymized data, or is it the tool that will do it? And if it do it, how accurate is that?
What other questions should I be asking? Well, another thing is, what should I be looking out for as a real red flag that the organization that's marketing me may not know what they're doing? Because that's where I hear so many people, they don't know what they don't know, and suddenly they're being sold a development option that they really don't need. Any obvious red flags for our bottom line, basic entry level users?
So the people who are building, who are these people? Are these the tech people only? They are generalized, or are they aware of the healthcare? So, and going back to the checklist, that is important. Once you talk to them and validate few of the steps, I think the bigger part is, as a buyer, we also need to have that checklist, which many of them so our checklist, which I've seen in many cases, people have, oh, is it HIPAA compliant? But that's not enough. What is the meaning of yes? Because that has 20 different other things, like how is your authentication? How is your authorization? How is your data deletion handled? That's a big question. And like, what if my business shut down? What do you do with the data?
Mhm.
Right? So all these are important. Like in HIPAA, there is no deletion, because if I, as a doctor, I look at somebody's record and I say I want to delete it, no, I looked at it. So that record cannot be deleted. It can go away from a view, but somewhere it's stored so that, and the audit would pull all of that data. Who actually made a query at the database level and just looked at the data? So these these compliance steps, or these compliance things that you have to validate to make sure that this is HIPAA compliant. But I think when you start asking these questions about, let's say, deletion and data retention, what if somebody loses the device? What do we do? Do we notify you? Would they? Will it have MDM, which is a mobile device management, so that you can remotely erase the phone? So I think you'll get an answer, because if you're just getting the app installed on your phone or on your computer, but without giving you ways to delete your data, uh, or remove the access, any of those, then it's not right.
So I want to jump from actual development to larger AI perspectives that we can pick your brain on here. Um, from what you're seeing, what should the average provider, nurse, clinic manager, how can they best prepare for AI coming into the field? What do you project is going to happen with AI? How can we best be prepared? How do we open our brains for the new perspectives that this incredible technology can do and some of the risks? Talk to us a bit about that, remembering that many of us, myself included, know enough about AI to be extremely dangerous and influenced by myths and untruths. So teach us a bit here.
Yeah, so I would start with what you said. Most users don't know. So the training is a big part of it. So for any AI, for any organization adapting into AI, the key part is the data, infrastructure, and the people. So if your people don't know, then that's going to be a challenge. So you want to start the training part. You want to pick the right tools, and the data is the important part. As I talked earlier, AI is like a mirror, so it will show you what you have. So if your data is not right, you're not tracking all the information, and that's where also if the tool that you are picking, you want to make sure that we are able to extract all the data that we could use AI to do the prediction, right? So if that tool is proprietary and it's keeping everything for their training and not giving you access, so you have a big practice, so or organization, you have 3,000 people, and then you are collecting, let's say, millions of data points every month. Now you have a huge data, but where is that going? Is it staying in Epic, or are they giving you just the summarized data, or are you giving the raw data? Because once you have the raw data, then you can do a lot more. That's the gold mine you are sitting at. So so it's important that you pay close attention to the data that uh, that you are creating. You have to have a data cleanup process. You have to know your use cases. I talked earlier as well. How your users are going to use this application. What are the things that you want? So if you know the steps, then we can automate. Because if you are not clear on those flows and there are 50 different possibilities, yes, you still have to lock down those. So data and then infrastructure. The bigger myth on the AI side is like it's probably just plug and play. Oh, I bring in a tool and I put it and the AI ready. In some cases, maybe, but on a very small use cases. But in most cases, it's a huge infrastructure is needed. There's a lot of training needed. So it's your data. So you don't want because the public data, public LLMs are trained. For that, you have ChatGPT, Vertex, Gemini, all of those available. What you want is on your data. So in order to train on your data, you need a huge infrastructure. And for that, you need to be ready for that investment as well.
How can one best self-educate, or where would you send me if I said, Mansoor, I want to become more versant with AI and the implications for my practice if I were a physician or if I was a clinic manager? Where would you send the average person like Carl to get more versed so that they're a better consumer and a better adapter for this wave of change?
There are many different ways, and one of the things that I tell everybody, including my kids and everybody who asks for it, said like the question that you're asking me, if you put in the same question on ChatGPT, you will get a lot more resources than you would get anywhere else, right? So that's really, I mean, for me, everything. So I use a Chat GPT, even to Chat GPT asking me questions on what I should be asking, because you can use Chat GPT in an innovative way. You can have AI agents that ask you. So, for example, for any of the projects that we do, we have our own AI agent for requirement. So it asks us the question. In a traditional way, we had the forms. People fill in the form. Now The AI agent would ask, and it would change the questions based on the responses that you're getting. So now you get a lot more clarity on what. So it's a process. So, and then the second part comes in. You can find different organizations who specifically trained on AI for the healthcare space. So, but yeah, you have to start somewhere. But usually, I start with ChatGPT as the number one to just give me the basic insights of what to look for, and then those questions will help me get to the next one.
Excellent.
Because in the training you have, when you're going through the training, you're also seeing a practical way of doing it, like going to the use cases. So, for example, many times, yeah, these tools will just give you, but most people reluctant and shy on trying those things. Yeah, content is one thing, asking one question, but let's say if it gives you some recommendation and that's some complicated work that you have to do in order to get there, maybe 10 steps, even though those may be a simple 10 step, but surprisingly, most people won't go for it. So you that's where a workshop or training would definitely help.
Excellent. So, talk to us a bit about how, if people have been listening and thinking, I need to get a hold of tech, I'll just technology river and see what they should help me on, how I could do it. Who are your ideal clients? Who should be contacting you? And then how do we contact you?
So multiple health tech organizations, um, any healthcare uh, organization, service businesses that are over 70 people, those are our ideal, because that's the time when you're outgrowing the technology. You may have 10 different tools. Now you need certain things to, because you need some kind of a consolidation, or maybe your specific workflow, you're growing at this stage where you need something, uh, some internal tools to optimize your processes, workflows, and get more value out of that. So those are our ideal customers. How do you contact? So website is technologyrivers, rivers.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn, you can just type in my name. I'm the only one with this name spelling. Um, Easy to find. So website, contact, LinkedIn, and then for this podcast, my domain is ghazenfer.com. So you can find me there as well. So many different ways. I'm easy to find if you just type my name spelling correctly.
Now, I imagine some people heard, a lot of our listeners are West Coast. You go nationally, correct? Just not in East Coast?
Yes, our customers are all over in the US.
Excellent. So, again, on this, you have a superb resource in someone who has dozens of healthcare applications behind him, CEO of Technology River. I'd really encourage you, the listener, to think about what you've heard today and use this resource if you think it's appropriate to help you go to the next level. Because one thing I'm hearing as I hear you talk today, Mansoor, is we're going in this direction whether we like it or not, and we better be prepared as much as possible to be educated consumers.
Absolutely. And I will also add a couple more things. So
Please.
um, yeah. So we talk everywhere, including in our company. Everybody needs to be 10x. So you said very right. Whether we like it or not, it's already here. We need to be on that wagon, or we're gonna left behind. So it's gonna impact our jobs. It's gonna impact our businesses. It's gonna impact everything. So, but the good thing is you can catch up all of that. So be on that. Uh, See how you can be 10x in whatever you are doing, whether you're a doctor, whether you are um, a COO of a company, whether you're a mm, developer, you, how you can be 10x. And there are many different ways of doing it. The AI can allow you to do that. So technology is here now. If you're not taking on any of these, then you gonna stay behind.
And yeah, I could not say it better. We can have all sorts of strategies, but if we're not connected well on this tsunami of change, um, it we're going to be playing catch up, and perhaps eventually, in a way, we'll never be able to catch up if we don't become. And one before we close, there's first user and early adopter, mid-level adopter. Where do you recommend people come in at? Should they be on the cutting edge? Should they wait to see what others are doing? As we close up, any thoughts on that?
It's very, I would say, personal specific. Everybody has, I mean, that's the personality people have. Um, so I think in this case, you have to really figure out what is, I mean, you have to look ahead and see how the world is moving. There are some problems that are not solved. There are many that's not solved, but some of those are, we know it's going to improve. They're going to get better and they will solve. Do we go compete on those, or do we pick something different? So it's, you really have to figure out how that business is also changing, because healthcare is going to be changing. So let's say post COVID, remote patient monitoring increased a lot. So it wasn't there before. Now with AI, there will be a lot more things that will happen. So just be ready, get yourself educated, and um, the sooner you can get in, the better it is.
Excellent. Well, thank you for taking time out of a busy CEO schedule to talk to us for as long as you did today. I really appreciate it, and so do our listeners. Thanks for being with us today.